From Book 2, I'm going to backtrack some. Verse number 50, that'll be 58. We are told that during the wars with the Cimbri, a noise of clanging armor and the sounding of a trumpet were heard from the sky, and that the same thing has happened frequently both before then and later. In the third consulship of Marius, the inhabitants of Ameria and Tudor saw the spectacle of heavenly armies advancing from east and the west to meet in battle, those from the west being routed. It has often been seen, and is not at all surprising, that the sky itself catches fire when the clouds have been set on fire by an exceptionally large flame. So that could be, translated from Latin, that could mean he's perhaps attempting to describe something that as a spark from a ship or from one of these heavenly armies, that the whole sky, the entire sky just lights up into flame. And that's in the the early part of the 1st century BC, like somewhere around 90 BC or so. In 31, verse 31, again, several suns were seen at once, neither above nor below the real sun, but at an angle with it, never alongside nor opposite to the earth, and not at night, but at either sunrise or sunset. It is also reported that once several suns were seen at midday in the Bosphorus, and that these lasted from dawn till sunset. In former times, 3 suns have often been seen at once. So that sounds a little peculiar, doesn't it? I mean, what's he trying to say to us? This is 2,000 years old. In 32, we read, also 3 moons have appeared at once. For instance, in the consulship of Gnaeus Domitius and Gaius Phineas. That's 222 BC. In 33, a light from the sky by night, the phenomena usually called night suns, was seen in the consulship of Gaius Caecilius and Gaius Papirius, and often on other occasions causing apparent daylight in the night. And that was recorded in 113 BC. 34, in the consulship of Lucius Valerius and Gaius Marius, a burning shield scattering sparks ran across the sky at sunset from west to east. And that's in 86 BC. All right? A burning shield scattering sparks ran across the sky. Could we say that's perhaps like in a swift-like motion? A swift-like motion? That's something interesting to remember as we get a little further into this. In 35, we read, in the consulship of Gnaeus Octavius and Gaius Scribonius, a spark was seen to fall from a star and increase in size as it approached the earth. And after becoming as large as the moon, it diffused a sort of cloudy daylight, and then returning to the sky, changed into a torch. That's recorded in 66 BC. None of these UFO books give the descriptions of Pliny. But we also have descriptions from Livy. There are descriptions from Dionysius of Halicarnassus, and there are other ancient authors that record things of this nature. But this is a very good one. I like the one about the dropping, because we hear people in these books describing them, but nobody refers back, hey, Pliny 2,000 years ago recorded something like that. Maybe there's a connection. Picking up with some more Pliny, in verse 36, also stars appear to shoot to and fro. This invariably portends the rise of a fierce hurricane in the same quarter. So he's talking about that at this time when they do their darting back and forth, that evidently there is some terrific wind associated with it. In 37, we read, stars also come into existence at sea and on land. And on a voyage, stars alight on the yards and other parts of the ship, with a sound resembling a voice. And this sound resembling a voice could mean a hum, just something made with the vocal cords. Hopping from perch to perch in the manner of birds. These, when they come singly, are disastrously heavy and wreck ships. And if they fall into the hole, burn them up. So he's talking about a light that comes across, shines down on the ship, and burns it up. Sounds pretty wild, doesn't it? And now we're going back a little bit in 23. It says, a terrible comet was seen by the people of Ethiopia and Egypt, to which Typhon the king of that period gave his name. It had a fiery appearance and was twisted like a coil, and it was very grim to behold. It was not really a star so much as what might be called a ball of fire. All right? Now, we're going to talk about a character that played a role in Pliny's life. His name was King Yuba. King Yuba, when he was young, his father was killed by Julius Caesar because King Yuba I had aligned himself with the Pompeian forces. And as Julius Caesar's forces overran Mauritania, he killed King Yuba I, and the little King Yuba II was taken back to Rome, where he wrote an entire digest of history. He traveled all over the Mediterranean. He traveled throughout the Atlantic. And all through the 10 volumes of Pliny, if anyone cares to read them, they are quite interesting. King Yuba II is just hailed by Pliny. He loves the guy. He talks about him all the time as King Yuba. He goes, there's absolutely no one that knows more about the Atlantic Ocean than King Yuba II. No one that knows more about Arabia than Yuba II. No one that knows the Mediterranean and how to get around better than King Yuba II. And so he refers, Pliny states in his work that he is copying or retelling stories that King Yuba had written down. But King Yuba's works are lost. And Yuba, bear in mind, we never did have the J. Can you guys see this? We never had the J until like the 1600s. It was like this. Yuba, which in the old Numidian would have been like this. Or the B would have had a dot in it, or the B could have been a long square. But Yuba, this symbol for the B, would mean that it had an A sound following it, a consonantal A. And Yuba plays a big role in all of this that has happened in Illinois. He, his brother-in-law, and his wife are very, very important players in what happened. Now, going back again, in verse 22, in Pliny, the tub star presents the shape of a cask with a smoky light all around it. The horned star has the shape of a horn, like the one that appeared when Greece fought the decisive battle of Salamis. The torch star resembles glowing torches. The horse star looks like horses' manes in very rapid motion, revolving in a circle. Also, there occurs a shining comet whose silvery tresses glow so brightly that it is scarcely possible to look at it, and which displays within it a shape in the likeness of a man's countenance. All right? Could you please turn the lights out? Let's look at some artifacts from Illinois for a second. This is one of the tablets from Illinois. And a lot of times on the tablets, what you'll see is you'll see the shape of the rock actually used in the formation of whatever the subject material is. And this one, there are certain rocks that draw people to them. You guys probably understand that more than I do. I'm not attracted particularly to a stone or not. But this particular one, the photographer that shot the photographs with the red background was Virginia Horrigan, who lives in New York City. And this particular stone, she took several shots of it, and from all the angles, it clearly shows that it's some kind of vessel, some kind of ship with a guy's head in it. And he doesn't look like a regular human being, simply because the artifacts that depict humans clearly depict humanoids. And the radiance across the top of the head is often used to depict some type of glow, some type of radiance, or film of some sort. and it's often depicted on several of these tablets. I have seen many more tablets than we're going to be able, that I'm going to be able to show you as far as slides go, which you just have to take my word for it that there are plenty more than what I have to show you here today. I only put these together with what I had in my own collection. Now let's see if we can get this thing to work here. All right, here's another one. Now, I don't know where the antennas fall off the UFO aliens. Now, I remember back in the early 60s when I was watching Flash Gordon and some of the other alien movies, there used to be little antennas on the guys. Maybe you guys could help me out and let me know when the antennas broke off. But on this one here particularly, you can see inside it, very, very faintly, the stone is actually better than this one, but a circle with some type of helmet structure and the two little things coming out of it with the radiance on it. Now everybody else, no one knew what this stone was, and when I photographed it I didn't know. But since we'd had other tablets like this, it was obvious to me that it was some type of small craft that was used for some type of landing. And it clearly shows a window. And we're going to look at some more where the helmet is somewhat similar to what it is that we see here. Oops. You know, they had the same problem in Utah one year. Oh, thank you. And I said, I'll never have that problem. I'm always going to make sure that the projector works right. But anyway, I need the light on to show you something. Is that there are aliens that we consider. How many of you have heard of reptilians before? Bunch of you. Well, here in this UFO book, which I got from my dad, it says here, reptilian with scales and claws, perceived as evil. And I've been studying dinosaurs. And when some weirdo like me studies dinosaurs, no telling what you're liable to come up with. And I'm going to show you some things that are pretty much undeniable, but this is the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Dinosaurs. All right? It was printed in 1985. And on page 55 here, up at the top, now this is a legitimate dinosaur book. And they are starting to show people very subtly reptilians of this type. You can go, okay, and this is only one. And it talks about the dinosauroid. And it comes up that these dinosaurs that roamed 150 million years ago, that certain dinosaur hunters, whatever, actually found some type of bones that they could configure into some type of form like this. All right, but that's not all. There's a book here called Hunting Dinosaurs. And these books are available at museums and whatnot. They're considered to be legitimate books. And, well, thank you. And here, we have a guy sitting at his desk, and look at what's talking to him here. So all these little subtleties that they're imposing on us, somebody's getting us ready for something, wouldn't you say? But oh, here we have a children's dinosaur book. This is printed in 1996. It's got some of the same stuff as the other one there. It's got some articles by the same guy. But you want to check him out for a little bit. Don't he look good? And that is not a question about that, is there? And it goes on the other page to say that they found some type of bones that perhaps look like this. But here we go with, this is a kid's dinosaur book. It's the same guy, except he's a lot bigger. A little bit better image of him. See? So, however it is that they're doing what it is that they're doing, we're getting the message pretty clear. Oh, that thing may have jammed up. Let me see if I can get this going here again. Okay. There's another one. Now, from this tomb, what we have reptilians. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no reason whatsoever to pull your legs or to feed you a line. But in March of 1997, March the 15th to be exact, we had an auction in Peoria, Illinois. And this particular stone was not there. We can see him on the, let's go look at the other. This is him on the other side. But there were available there for anybody who, I think he went for 35 bucks. And if I had the extra money, I'd have bought him a life-size bust head of a reptilian, about this tall. And there were several others that are small. I have seen, coming out of this tomb, about 5 of them that are clearly like this. Let's go see if we can take a chance and go backwards one. No, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Reptilian image.
You know what? You just may have it. Let's see if which way that's going. Okay, maybe let's go the other way. I think it might be because it's on a. All right, here he is again. This is the one side of it. Am I standing in your way? I'll stand in this void here. Pardon me? Elevate it?
The projector.
Slide projector.
You want me to give you
No, I think we got a button here that if I find it, we can push it. No, it's at the highest. I got one here. Let's see about this one. How's that? Sure. Boy, she gets picky, don't she? All right. Can everybody see that one? All right. And there he is again. And then there are several other types that we can't really explain. Can you engineer that for me? Oh, thank you. Okay, here's one. Now, I've got this stone with me. And I'll show you this one. Yeah. Don't you want to feel what the energy's off of this rock here? I told you some of them scare people. But this is a what appears to be a reptilian, and I call it tuxedo for lack of a better word for it. And the stone itself is carved in bas-relief. That means that the image itself is lifted out from the stone. The image itself is not carved. It's the stone around it that is carved. And we have several stones like that from this tomb that are all cut in this bas-relief fashion. But this is clearly, the scholars, they didn't know what this was. They said, oh, it's an alligator man. Surprise! It's clearly a reptilian. And even to the hands, the way the feet are shaped. And he's in garb. He dresses up. He's in good-looking clothes there, isn't he? Well, some of them have dates on them.
I know what everybody does.
You can't test a rock. You can't really even test anything organic. But they'll tell you that they can, but they really can't. But when a rock's got somebody's name on it and a date, I would believe that. Here's another one. This isn't a seal, and this is a really good-looking stone. I mean, the other side of it, I don't have a photo of the other side, but it's just precise. And maybe you guys can help me out. Anybody seen an alien like this guy before? Here's another one. And this one perplexes me. I have no idea what he is, who he is, where he's from. And the other side of it, of this particular tablet, didn't really show a lot of detail, but certain ones, Virginia Hargan, when she was taking photographs of these, she didn't really, this right here would not excite her. Where me, I was like, hey, wow, that looks like it could be some weird animal, you know? So, but this is just another one. Maybe you guys have some insight on that. All right, now we're going to get into some decipherments. This particular tablet, can you see where this is going yet? This particular tablet was featured it's owned by Dr. Beverly Mosley, who we call him the Weasel. He's a museum designer here in North America. He's got a list of museums behind his coattails that is a mile long. Cahokia is one of his flagships. And this is the Midwestern Epigraphic Journal, and this is one is published by Dr. John White III. He's a retired nuclear physicist. He's one of the top in the country. And these stones have attracted people for over a decade. And the only people that know anything about it are heavy-duty antique collectors and museum designers who have put forth the effort and the money to stay in touch with all this. And here we have an article written by Dr. Houston McCullough, who also was is a professor at the University of Ohio. And the way we do this is, first of all, I'm just going to focus that in for right there because I'm going to have to be getting in there. We're going to show you pretty much how the script reads. All right, and this is this cut. Now, this particular tablet is very clean. The inscription on it is very good. Oh, really? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I would. Let's do that. Okay. Well, it lights up the whole room, doesn't it? Okay. Now, a couple of things you'll notice is there's a little guy on top that's got 5 little dots around it. And this is the circle cross. The circle cross is all in this tomb. And it appears to have some resemblance of Tanit, but here you almost see the resemblance of the Star Trek symbol. And at the bottom here we have an eye. An eye, okay? Now, here, I can, the scholars just beat around. They could not decipher this. They had no idea what it says. But I can ask you guys here, as intellectually elevated as you are, what is that letter right there? What is that letter there? What is that letter there? What is that? What is that? What is that? The scholars in the world cannot figure that out. You've just spelled the word Multoa, which is a Latin word. Does it seem that difficult? So even with that, why couldn't they have done anything more than whatever they came up with? But then I'm going to give you some synopsis of what these guys say. I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so. You'll see what they represent here in a second. All right, here we have the script written as it reads, okay? It reads from the left to the right, from the right to the left. We call this bostrapheden. That's a Greek word that means by the way that the ox plows, all right? And it goes back and forth. And here we have Multoa, that everybody in here got right. Congratulations, you should give yourself a hand for that. All right, so here we've taken the archaic script on the tablet and we've put it into archaic Latin, which is heavily abbreviated. A lot of times they left out vowels. You had to assume the vowel sounds following certain consonants. But you see that we have Sisteo, you see the A, I, L, Ali, Relebsis, C, SS, Bet, B-E-T, is short for Betis, Vai, Basis, Materi, See, there's your T again, your R with an E sound after it. There's a heavy E. Lux, Menave, Multoa. See, Multoa is so easy, but nobody in the world got it. None of these scholars got it. All right? And this tablet was deciphered first 3 years ago. So we'll let you look at that for a second. Now we're going to see what that says in English. Does everybody see that? And here's what it says in English. A basket-like object magnificently comes and goes in a swift-like motion, and on its base can be observed many red lights twisting together. Now you see why the scholars don't like us very much. All right? Now, given this, I called up Dr. Mosley and I said I was really, really excited, because back at that time we thought he was going to work with us and send us more photos of stones to be deciphered. And I said to him, oh, that tablet that you sent us with the eye at the bottom. The eye is obviously some type of observation point, and the symbol at the top is probably meaning the circle with the dots, the lights spinning around it. But I told him, I said, oh, that stone is so important. I said, you need to hang on to that. Don't let anything happen to that. Oh, that would be just, oh, that's just such a great stone. He said, well, there's a picture on the back of it. Oh, there is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, what would you think a picture on the back of a stone that said that in ancient Latin, what would it have on the back of it? Boy, you guys are on top of it. All right? I'm going to use Houston McCullough's photograph again, but I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn it so that you can see it more exactly how it should be seen. All right? Now, he's kind of messed this up a little bit, because what he depicts it as is a chicken. So they call this the chicken stone. And when you turn it up right, it looks like a chicken head to them. All right? But when we saw this on the back of the tablet, where's my? Boom. All right? You just look at it for a second. And without... Okay? We'll come back to that in a second. And this is how we do decipherments. Letter by letter, word by word. It's the only way to do it. We don't make up anything. We don't try to interject anything. We don't try to lead someone who doesn't know astray at all. Ephabet perpetualia Ephesus bel ubiti as teletus. All right? And right here, you can see Yuba. All right? So you can look at that for a second. I don't want to go too fast for you. But you can see that this is, what we do is, again, we take the script into Archaic Latin, and then move the Archaic Latin into Classical Latin. And then you just basically look the words up in any Latin dictionary and you got it. It's not, AES. What does AES stand for? Does anybody know Latin enough to know what AES is? That's bronze. They have AES coins. That's just a typical word for bronze. All right? So let's see what this says in English. Boom. In likeness of a monster that constantly glows, where its armor is made of bronze. All right? Now, I got this UFO book here. Let you look at that for a second. And this UFO book here is printed in 1995. And we're going to look at this one here. You can go ahead and keep the lights dim for just a second, all right, to see this. And you can see how this is, and then I showed you the other photograph of it. This book is printed in 1995, and it has a medieval lithograph in it. See? UFO. Our UFO book. And I'm not making this up. But something very peculiar here. I may have to stand here and hold it. The similarities are uncanny. And this is from medieval times, printed in 1995, and this is a rock that's 2,000 years old. Now, could Yuba have carved this tablet? Perhaps he could have. There are several tablets that have Yuba's name on them. We don't know if he commissioned them or if he actually carved them. And they're all found right here in this state. Like I say, when the auction was going on, right before the auction, I contacted Dr. Mark Esseray. He's what you call your state archie here, or he is director of the State Historical Preservation Department of the state of Illinois. His #1 attorney is Dr. Bill Wheeler, and I've had run-ins with them for a long time trying to convince them to do something about all the looting and plundering that's been going on for years and years. But unfortunately, our Mr. Burroughs, who found this ancient tomb long before we came about, he just managed to irritate so many people for so long that they don't want to have anything to do with it. And we don't have enough interest in the state of Illinois to do anything about it. But now let's go back what we've done. We've looked at a tablet that was carved 2,000 years ago, and the picture on the back is very similar to a picture that is printed in 1995 of a lithograph from the medieval ages. Okay? I'm just going to leave that right there for right now. We'll leave that right there. Boom. Here's another one. Okay. All right. This clearly shows a female Ebe, a female entity. Tell by the excessively large mammary glands right here in the front. Whoever carved this wanted you to make certain that there was no question that this was a female humanoid of some sort. And it's carved in ancient Egyptian glyph. It starts here and it comes up this way. And what it says is coming out or exiting of a metallic house or dwelling that climbs into the abode of Ra. So what we would say in English is comes out of a metallic home that rises into the air or flies up into the heavens. This particular Eve holds an ankh in the right hand and the scepter in the left hand. And it's carved in Egyptian glyph, which was not deciphered until 1820, when Champollion was studying the Rosetta Stone. So there's obviously no way that the tablet could be a forgery. And here we clearly have a female entity that comes out of a metallic dwelling or walks out, to do it the same way that we did the other tablet. It's a little bit more confusing with the Egyptian because the walking out could be walking out, coming out, exiting of a metallic or a metal home, dwelling, house that climbs or rises or shoots up into the air or the humble abode of Ra. There are several tablets that that are similar to this. They show an ebe. That all of them have 5 fingers, 5 toes, and they'll have them folded up in clothes, in blankets. And this is something that's very common. I've only got a few here to show you, but you can get some idea of what these stones look like. And I'm not the best photographer in the world. The only thing I can take pictures of are black rocks, which most of these stones are black. And this is one in particular. It appears to be some type of biological entity that is wrapped up in some type of clothes. Now, where the rest of his body is, I have no idea. Here's another one. See a lot of strange. Would you like to feel the vibes off of some of these stones? Some people have freaked out. Some psychics that are, I guess you would call, sensitive or whatnot. Some of these tablets have actually freaked them out. And they wanted them out of their hotel, out of the room, out of the convention center, everywhere, in the truck before they'd come back into the convention center. So, you tell me if a rock has that much energy or not. But here's another one. And it doesn't appear that he's got all of his fingers. He may have 3. Yeah, he's got 3 on this hand. Can't really count them on that other hand that well. And this is another one of Virginia Horrigan's. I want to thank Virginia for allowing me to use these slides. Of course, she has no idea that any of these were ebes. Nobody did. Here's another one. And like I say again, whenever it's a baby wrapped up in this particular kind of garb, it is clearly a human face, which we will see here in a couple of minutes. That the carving, the people who carved these stones did an excellent job. They were very meticulous and did an excellent job getting the detail right. And all of this is from southern Illinois. Here's another one. And there are probably about 20 of these type of stones that I've seen. And funny thing is when you look in when you go to the library and you get the book about the Phoenicians, it'll have the same type of UFO alien wrapped up in the same type of clothes. A lot of these people had a heavy Punic influence. It's all Mediterranean. But there are particular statues that look just exactly like these guys. Here's one. Appears to be a male of some sort in some kind of helmet. And here you have this radiant again. I don't know who owns this tablet. I don't know if I could have ever bought it or not. But it clearly is something strange. Now, you tell me what that is. What does it look like? It's like a guy with a space helmet of some sort. And there are some comical type of aliens that there was one tablet. It's a marble bas-relief. I don't have a picture of it. But it appears to be 3 gray aliens singing. This looks like a mouse with a football helmet. Looks like a mouse with some kind of... I threw it in there because it could be. I don't know. You tell me. It looks kind of comical. Doesn't look like it's a serious stone. The actual color of this stone is black. It just doesn't show up good on the red. But if I was going to describe this stone, I'd say it was a mouse with a helmet on and a Zorro mask. There are some of these tablets that are attempting to describe them to someone that just be absolutely bizarre. Here's another mystery character. And again, all I can say is that when something is human, it is clearly human. But this guy's got pointed ears. We're going to look at the side of his head here in a second. And I can't identify the hat. When we got into all this, we tried to get as much reference data as we could. Helmets, swords, hats, data, whatever. And we can't identify what this guy is. But it's beautiful. That particular head is about this tall. And he's marble. And he's dirty. And he's weird looking. All right, here's another entity. You see the radiant around the head, and it's fairly peculiar. It's got a little woody here in the center. And it has, its arms appear to be cut off to some degree. I don't know if this is a morph or some kind of dwarf or whatever, but its legs seem to be shortened as well. And I threw this in because I didn't know. Seeing that it's got that type of head on it. Now I do have one tablet out front that has a man's head with the radiant around it, and it could be. I didn't put it in the slideshow here because I actually have the stone with me. So you can see that stone out front. And this rock also is black. Don't be misled by the color of it being brown here. All right. Ain't he cute? These guys were going out drinking, and he said, "Stop there for just a second. Let me get a picture of you." And he grabbed out his little diamond tool, and he carved this out. The eyes on this guy are incredible. This is a nice guy. I don't know what planet he's from, but you don't put so much character into any carving unless you intend for it to be projected that way. And this guy, his suit, he's tied up. He's got the nice tie here in front. He's beautiful. He's a good-looking guy. I know this guy is nice. I feel close to him. But this is one. I mean, it's obviously some type of I'm not sure, where he's from, but it is some type of alien. We have too many. When it's a lion, it's a lion. When it's an alien, it's an alien. When it's a gorilla or a monkey, it's a monkey. Like who? Oh, okay, could be. Little spiral hat on him. But this could be some kind of diplomat. Could be some guy's going out to get a sandwich and a brew. He looks nice. Now there are other. Now let's get back to stones drawing people to them. Virginia Horrigan. This is another stone that drew her. This is the bottom of it, and it shows the phases of the moon. And there are several like this. I've only got this one here, and maybe there might be a couple after it. But this is one that that she took several pictures of, and I had them turned into slides. And this is the bottom of the stone. And this is from the rear right elevated. All right? There are several tablets that have this type of lightning coming out of the center. There'll be like a central vortex. And I wish that I could, I've had twice as many of these slides to show you tonight if I had access to all of them. But here's one that shows a ring around the bottom of it in your radiant. There it is again. And I believe that this is some type of alien craft. Or, spacecraft. Traveling craft. I don't believe in UFOs because whoever's driving them, they know what it is. They know if it's a Chrysler or a Ford. Just because I don't know what it is doesn't mean that it's unidentified. I'm just a stupid earthling. So anyway, here we go. Shows another side of it. I believe this is from the front. And here's a picture right of the top. And it shows you the electrical symbols in it. And like I say, there are several. There are some tablets that have these electrical fusion type marks coming from the top, from the bottom. They'll be coming out their sides or whatever. But like I said, I don't have access to all the photographs or the pictures. I'm delighted that the people who loaned me the artifacts to come up here, the Lawrences and the Shearbaums, for loaning me some of their artifacts to bring up here tonight to show you. And here's another one. This is on top of a marble dagger type of unit. And it has the various... Let's see if I can clear that up a little bit. It has the various lightning or electrical marks of sorts on it. And the marble, we haven't been able to identify which pit the marble came from. Marble is a thumbprint. It's all indicative of whatever it comes from. And here's another one. I've got this stone that's out there. There are several stones that have these circular designs on them, but there's no hole in the center. You can look at them with a magnifying glass, and there's no hole that from where if somebody were to carve that they would have put a compass down into the unit and then spun around to scratch the rock surface. But we don't see any holes in it. And there's the rear of this particular tablet. There are several that are like this. There are several tablets that show these. What this translates as is soothsayer, or being able to predict the future. Psychic, just like some of you guys. They had them back then. He's wearing the circle cross around his neck. And up across the top you can see a meteor or a comet or something coming from the sky. Now, regardless of what it is, the ball and then the splatter mark, it does say soothsayer on it. So it means that whoever this guy is, he could predict the future. He is an ancient augur, is what they called him. And in the Roman Empire, most of the augurs came from a little town north of Rome called Tirana. And there were like a few families there that had a long history. From like 800 BC, that all of them in the family would be psychic or perceptive or have large quantities of ESP, for lack of a better determination. All right, now I'm going to show you, this is one I just had that I had to throw in because I figured you might like it. And there are about 20 stones like this from the tomb. All right? And you can see how it is, and it's like this. Well, let's see, and, you know, I just want you to look at it for a second. It's an ugly head. Look at his nose. He's got these ugly eyes. He's got an ugly mouth. All right? But now look at this photograph. It's the same thing upside down. There are about 20 of these that when you look at it one way, it is a head and a mouth and a face, and we didn't even notice it till we were sitting around shuffling through hundreds of photos one night, and I'm looking at a rock, and he's looking at a rock across the table from me, and he says, hey, it's a face upside down also. Let me see if this thing, we're going to chance it, we're going to see if it'll go backwards. Okay? See it again? And one of the most intriguing artifacts is about the size of a baseball, and it has the distinct characteristic of 7 different animal heads, and they're all conglomerated into one, where you take the baseball and you look at it from one angle, it is a bear's head, but if you turn it to the side, that bear's ear will become like the fox's nose. And you know what I'm saying? It's the weirdest art. It's very intricate. And I get a load out of it because they're so good. How does someone plan to do that except, I mean, without Play-Doh? So anyway, if you would, cut the lights, turn the lights back on. In Georgia, we cut the lights on. In Chicago, you probably turn the lights on. All right, there's another one here that I'm going to show you. I literally found it on the way out the door. And I'm going to show it to you. Can everyone see that? It's a female again. We can clearly see that. You like that, don't you? But out of all of these UFO books, the best one is 2,000 years old. The only one that comes second to it, and I'd have to mention this, or I'd just have to kick myself forever, is an Our Haunted Planet by John A. Keel. It stands alone, and it's not really a UFO book at all, but it records one of the most bizarre stories And my hat's off to John A. Keel. There's a story that starts at page 103 in this book that is the most twisted. And no one could ever think it up. It's just absolutely so twisted that I wouldn't even know how to explain it to you. And it takes him about 2 or 3 pages to tell you what was going on. And it has to do with one of the guys that was involved with the Kennedy assassination and some of his property. But it doesn't really, it's all in an indirect manner. But it is absolutely one of the best UFO stories ever that I have ever read, much more so than any of the rest of these books. By John A. Keel, Our Haunted Planet. And does anyone have any questions? No, it came out in 1969, I believe. Or 1969 or 1970. Which wasn't, you know, that at that time, the Kennedy assassination was still fresh in everyone's mind. And, you know, I mean, I'm not here to talk about the Kennedy assassination, but I know where the hitman was. You want to hear? Yeah. He was in the trunk. I figured it out doing my own stop videos and whatnot. There was a guy in the trunk, which means he definitely had to be in cahoots with the Secret Service. And when Jackie jumps out of the back seat, she turns to the inside. And she's not grabbing for a piece of the brain, she's beating on the trunk. You got to watch it next time when they show the Zapruder film and some of those other films. She turns around and starts beating on the trunk. And I don't know why. And then I got another. I said, well, all I need to do is find some photographs of the car. And I did. And sure enough, the trunk was open right after it happened. So that's just, you know, that was just for free. That was just my observation. Any other questions? Pardon me? The tomb is in Marion County, Illinois. The southeast corner of Marion County, Illinois. We have found artifacts all up and down the ravine system. We've got boxes of pottery, arrowheads, and we've actually found tablets that had Numidian writing on them, but we believe that they were salted in there by the guy that was first looting it. Yes, sir?
You theorize that these things got in the cave.
How they got in the cave or how they got over here from Africa or Mediterranean? Well, it's a long story, but what happened is the person that brought most of it over, or the first heat, or ship after ship, is Alexander Helios. And Alexander Helios is a missing son of Queen Cleopatra and Mark Antony. We have record that Alexander Helios went back to Rome. His sister, his twin sister, was Cleopatra Selene. Cleopatra Selene married King Yuba II. And King Yuba II was a master of the Atlantic seas. And between the three of them and Cleopatra VII, Theophilopator, and Octavia, who was Augustus Caesar's sister, she raised all three of them. Octavia raised all three of them. And King Yuba II and Cleopatra Selene, they met each other as hostages in the court of Octavian. And as they were taken, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene were taken back to Rome at the ages of 10. At the age of 10, when Octavian, the Roman forces came into Alexandria and pretty much just conquered Alexandria, and he was going to take all the goods, he was going to desecrate everything. Cleopatra, who's one of the smartest women that ever lived, and don't believe a word of it when you hear that, oh, she was just a whore and a tramp. She copulated with 2 men and had 4 children by 2 men, and that is all we have record of. And you know, and I'm trying to save her. And then I come to find out that because we've been in touch with the Discovery Channel here and there, and they've kind of seen some of what we've got going on. And I see more television shows coming out now trying to clear Cleopatra's name for such. But when the Roman forces defeated Mark Antony at the Battle of Actium, which wasn't really a defeat, that's probably, to me, the most important battle in ancient history was the Battle of Actium. Mark Antony fled back to Egypt with Cleopatra, and his army just pretty much gave up. Well, at the time, Octavian, he couldn't pay the army. Here he had an army of 50,000 that hated his guts, a navy that did not want to work for him or fight for him. So I believe that all of them just kind of packed up and left, because we don't know what happened to the 10 legions of Mark Antony either, let alone the ships. Now, certain tablets, like the one I've got out front, has a map of the Boeotis River and clearly shows the city of Gades, which is the port city at the mouth of the Boeotis River. And we have other tablets that explain that there were several journeys that actually initiated from the port city of Gades. So, however they got them out of Alexandria and over to Gades, or they stashed them somewhere from Africa, from Egypt, stashed them somewhere in Carthage, Mauritania, wherever. We do know also by the history that we've uncovered here that King Yuba also had control over the black market up and down the Nile. After Cleopatra passed away and he married Cleopatra's daughter, there was really no one else to usurp the black market up the Nile. Now, a lot of scholars will say, oh, that's impossible, this and that, but hey, where's the proof? We got the rocks that are 2,000 years old that are explaining it to us that no other scholar has been privy to. And they can't read this stuff. They can't figure out Multoa. And you guys did. There's not anybody in here that couldn't figure out Multoa. And you can look that up in any Latin dictionary. Any other questions?
Yeah, why Marion County?
Why not?
Far from the Mississippi River, which would be the logical way to come in if you come down.
If there was any, at the convergence of the Mississippi and the Ohio, which river's bigger? The Ohio is. The Ohio is much larger. And if there had been any type of flood going down, I don't know why it's called Mississippi River, to be honest with you, but where they converge, the Ohio is much wider than the Mississippi. And if there had been any type of flood zone there at all, at that time, 2,000 years ago when they were coming up the river, well, naturally, they would have taken the right way to go up the Ohio. And then the Wabash, excuse me, which is the next big major river, if that was at a flood stage, it is doggone almost as large as the Ohio. I've seen it at flood stage there. And it is very, very wide, covers a lot of area. And in back 2,000 years ago, that particular river could have been much wider in the first place. So, up the Mississippi, up the Ohio, up the Wabash, up the Little Wabash, up the Skillet Fork. And as far as Illinois goes, Illinois is bordered by the two largest rivers in the country, no doubt. The Wabash is in the top 10. The Illinois River cuts right through the middle of it. That's one of the largest rivers in the nation. There are four-fifths of the state of Illinois are actually river boundaries, large river boundaries. And you guys live here. You guys know what the nuts and the fruits and everything that's grown here tastes like. The deer here is second to none. The quail, the squirrel, the rabbit here is second to none. Why not? Yes, sir.
What do current archaeologists say about all of this?
Have you got any stones I can buy? That's the only thing they say. They know the significance of this. We have tried to get the state of Illinois interested in this now for 4 years. I was playing our first decipherment tape for the state Archie, Dr. Mark Esseray, and he just fell right off. Nodsville, out, see ya, click. And we had several photos of artifacts, but it's way over their heads. Most archaeologists have never dug up anything but a few arrowheads and pieces of pottery, and that's it. That gives you a PhD. And another thing is, if we were to ever say that this was Native American or something having to do with slavery or whatever, they would be all over it. But since it appears to me that it's Caucasian or whatever, nobody cares, and never has. Not even in Europe today. The remains, nobody cares. But if it's something that looks prehistoric, that's pretty interesting. Do you have any questions?
I have a comment. I live in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, 100 miles south of St. Louis, on the Mississippi River, 30 miles from the convergence of the Mississippi-Ohio River. Do you know what they call the southern part of Illinois? Little Egypt. You know the city on the tip of the south part of Illinois? It's called Cairo, but it's the same as Cairo. 60 miles north of there, there's a town, did you know this? Karnak.
There's also Lake Alexander. There's also Pyramid Lake and Carthage, Metropolis. And people have I've heard all of the stories in the lore concerning why it's called Little Egypt, Little Egypt, Little Egypt. And people ask me, what do you think? I think that some German or Dutch immigrant found a stone that had Egyptian glyphs on it. But any Native American tribe that has that circle cross is all up and down the Mississippi River.
Are you familiar with Dixon Mounds in Illinois?
Yes.
Okay. Go to Cairo, cross the bridge across the Ohio River, drive about 5 miles into a little town called Wickliffe, Kentucky, and there's a buried city that predates the Indians. Who were they? Probably the people off that boat. I don't know.
And the skeletons I've got are Caucasian. At Cahokia Mounds, they had Caucasian skeletons, and they had giant skeletons too. I mean, you're not going to hear it, they don't put it in their little film strip, but you got the guy that built the museum right there going, yeah, they got skeletons out there that are 8 feet tall. Oh, good. And they found those all over North America also. This language that we call Shap, which is simply a morphed Punic Latin with some Greek characters, it's kind of like a mishmash of Mediterranean languages that were contemporary today. This language we call Shap, we find it all over North America. People send us photographs now that have this stuff on them. They have either somebody's name. I mean, everyone here knows probably that they found runic stuff all over North America. But all over in Oklahoma, Arkansas, some amazing artifacts. And you were telling me last night of the amazing artifacts that you and some of your friends have found, which really stoked me. And it's all in the same area. Yes, ma'am?
So have you written a book about this?
We've got in print right now available between our webpage and what we have available here and what we can take orders for, about 300,000 words. We have essays of rebuttal to scholars. I was body slammed by this professor, Alexander P. McGregor, PhD, Latin Classics here at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And he wrote a very sloppy letter deposing Paul and I in the decipherments. And it was just absolutely so childish and so immature. And I wrote him back a 6-page letter that just cut his throat. And Paul wrote a 4-page rebuttal also that slit his wrist. And we don't hear anything past that. Scholars hate us because, this guy is teaching Latin classics over here at your university, and he cannot come close to me in the Latin classics. And I'm not that good at it, but he's just that bad. He probably can't even read Latin. And I know for certain he's never deciphered anything. And he made the statements like, we don't see these characters anywhere, but all over Spain we see this. We call it Celtiberian. But it's a little bit more Latin influenced than even this Latin. It's a little more complete. It's not quite as abbreviated, but it's the same characters again and again and again. But when we did this, when all the decipherments were made, we said, oh, it's Etruscan, it's Etruscan. Old Latin characters with Latin agglutinative root stems. All we had to do was find a professor of Etruscan and send them copies of our work and let them check it out. Because then we found out right then that Etruscan was still an undeciphered language. And there were no professors that deciphered Etruscan. So here we are reading it all day, coming and going, thousands of funeraries in Italy, and the scholars are still running around trying to see how it feels to them, and trying to say that it's this, or that it's that, or this, or this, that. And it comes from central Italy, just north of Rome, and they can't figure out that it's Latin. The Latins used to live there. And it's not that difficult to go letter by letter, like Multoa. I mean, some of it is not that. But see, the other scholars, if you were trying to come the other way, might pose a problem. You're going, what's that word? But they don't understand that Archaic Latin and Archaic Greek were read in both directions. Post feet. They were coming and going. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What is your website address?
It's www.alexhelios.com. alexhelios.com. And it is a really large website. It's like, we've got all kinds of photographs, decipherments, We put we call that one that I showed you Sister Rosa, which is red basket. Well, all these scholars, they said, well, it's Dr. Mosley's tablet. He calls it the chicken rock. Why don't you call it the chicken rock? No. We name stones, we give them our own nicknames so that we know which ones they are. And we call it red basket. It should be on there in German. Yes, sir.
Talk about we. Who's included in your
Myself, Paul Shafranca, and that's, you know, just a handful of other people that probably wouldn't want me mentioning their names right now. But me and Paul are pretty much heading up the operation, everything about it now. We've had other people working for us, and we've been stabbed in the back so many times by family members and alleged friends. We've been ripped off, and because we're so concentrated on one thing, it's hard to get out of something else. Right, yeah, just go ahead and pop me in the back. Is that it?